Good morning. Long time no talk. Lovely to have you back. Hope you had a safe and fun holiday weekend or holiday Tuesday, however it is that you're celebrating, or maybe you're celebrating right now. Maybe you're licking your wounds after a long holiday break off, or the fireworks didn't start till 10 last night downtown. Wherever you are, we're happy that we're back here spending a little bit of time together. 3 hours is what you've got us for. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. But it's a different look around here today. It's a different vibe. Lucas is off for the rest of the week. I don't see Bert. That doesn't mean that he's not here, but I don't physically see him with my own eyes. Jackson is the only person who I can physically see in front of me today, which means I have no adult supervision, which means there are no rules. Good morning, bud.
I am an adult. You are supervised.
Yeah, but how, did you get any, were you left a list of things to do, of ways to manage this situation by either of them? Were they responsible in leaving you with their responsibilities? Even though it's no longer Bert's responsibilities, even though he continues to hover around here basically like a fruit fly buzzing around things on a regular basis, were you left like a checklist of things to do to be able to make sure that the show stays on the rails?
Yeah, it's like when you house sit, I got, water the plants, dogs get 2 cups of food a day, stuff like that.
Okay, good. So we are at least prepared with instruction. So we'll see how this thing goes. Now we are in capable hands with Jackson, and we'll certainly have a good time together. We do want to get to a couple of different news items. Obviously, the Hassan Haskins thing happened while we were off the air, fortunately for the Titans and their PR staff, but unfortunately for the football team and for the situation between his girlfriend and himself and everything that has resulted from that. We'll get to that momentarily. But we do have to talk about something from the 4th of July festivities, because Jackson and I talked about this. It sounds like everybody, at least around the station, had a fun and productive 4th of July. Weird to have it on a Tuesday. Not the most ideal situation. But I think that when you think about all the different hassles, like hassles when it comes to holidays, right? Is 4th of July the biggest hassle of a holiday out there? What I mean by that, you got to plan things for you and your family. You got to be somewhere for fireworks. You got to make sure that everybody has a plan in place. You got to work with other groups of people to make sure that you're doing something together. Or if you're trying to be communal with it, maybe you just want to set up in your backyard and watch the fireworks from far away. Whatever the case may be, I feel like July 4th is a hassle holiday. You got to have a plan. And so my plan was to the Nashville Sounds. Nashville Sounds played a home game last night at First Horizon now. It's not First Tennessee anymore, First Horizon. And they have a fireworks show at the ballpark after the game. On top of what's already, you're going to be able to see the downtown fireworks from First Horizon. So it's a good setup. It's like $30 for a general admission ticket. You go to the bandbox, you hang out. This is not an ad for the Sounds or anything like that. I was just looking for an easy way to do the 4th of July. And so I thought that might be the easiest way. Now, there's a little bit of weather, the complicated things. Weather all weekend, the complicated things. We'll get the story that I have about that later on. Good God. But I was excited for the fireworks. Sounds do a great job. It's always a great atmosphere, whether you're into the baseball or not. And, I just thought it a bit comical. And I don't want to spoil my dumbest thing in sports this week, but I thought it comical that a team that lost 19-2 yesterday had to then host a giant fireworks celebration on the field where they just got their asses kicked. That was hilarious to me.
I can't imagine just how quickly did they get the final score off of the Jumbotron?
Oh, they couldn't have gotten it off fast enough. They couldn't have wiped it away quickly enough. Now, I do think some of the players and their families were just hanging out in the dugout afterwards because they want to watch fireworks too. They know they lost 19-2. It's okay. There were 10 runs scored in the first inning, so it was never really in question that the Sounds are going to lose that game. But I do think that the irony of there being a giant celebration on your field after an ungodly defeat at the hands of, I think they were the Columbus Cavaliers. I think that's the team that they were playing against last night. My MILB knowledge is lacking. But it was a great time. Sounds put on a great show. We literally almost had fireworks landing in our lap. They're that close. So there's probably worse ways that you could set up the 4th of July. The concerts downtown and everything downtown, Nashville does a great job with those things. I'm sure that a lot of you guys went and or set up on the pedestrian bridge. Oh, I don't know if they'll let you set up on the pedestrian bridge. I know they let you set up on the Jefferson Street Bridge to like watch the downtown fireworks because people will bring lawn chairs and park cars and things like that. But on the whole, I just feel like July 4th is a hassle holiday. Like it almost feels like an obligation to have a plan of what to do.
Aren't all holidays kind of a hassle? Like if you really think about like the things we're describing, aren't most holidays a hassle?
You know, because UW brings this up in the F&M Bank chat, and you can interact with the show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. He says, more of a hassle than Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's wild. Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm running this through, shocking to no one, I'm running this through a very, very self-involved prism. 4th of July is one of the few holidays that I get to do. And I say that, like, typically, Christmas, Thanksgiving, there is football around those things. I don't go home. I don't do Thanksgiving or Christmas conventionally. Like I'm not doing the whole family holiday situation during those because I know that I'm going to have practice during that week. I know there's probably a game that weekend. And if I can find a day to do like an up and back and like go hang out with my parents for a couple hours and then just drive back because I know I'm going to have work, then I'll do that. So like Thanksgiving and Christmas, real easy. In fact, it's probably the easiest holidays that I have because I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry about being anywhere. It's just if I have the time, can I go up and spend a little time with my parents? That's about it.
Yeah, I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. I have all my family lives like 20 minutes from where we are right now. Like cousins, aunts, everything, like 20 minutes.
Yes. So do you enjoy that? Because and you don't have to put yourself in a compromising position here, Jackson, because I will openly admit to I would hate that. Because then there's no excuse for me to be able to escape these large family gatherings that I'm not necessarily crazy about in the first place. You may enjoy that. You may be a normal person, not like me.
It's a way of life. Like, like I've been doing it since like I was in literal diapers. So it's kind of, I don't really know anything else. I don't really know what the alternative would be, which is, I guess, your situation.
Which is I hide from people. I use work to hide from people. It's basically the conclusion that we've drawn. But we already have people asking, where are the polls? Yes, I know. This is what happens when Lucas leaves town. I forget to do the polls. I always forget to do the polls when Lucas isn't here. It's the only reason that I need Lucas on a regular basis because it's the one part of the show that is essential to have him, and I can't be trusted to do it on my own. So we will put the polls up here in just a second. I do, not to bring the proceedings down, because obviously we've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. We are going to do some July 4th observations in the absence of Lucas. Typically Wednesday is SEC observations, but I think there's some funny stuff to pull from a holiday weekend. And we will talk to Alan Judd, investigative journalist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, about what the hell is going on with the Georgia football program. Because the details in there are pretty interesting, and frankly, some of the reporting is being disputed by our buddy Josh Pate, who spoke to that effect on his podcast. We can talk about those things in a second. But I do want to draw some attention to a really sad story that happened over the weekend here in Nashville that's close to this show. So you guys know that we have the charity bowling event coming up on July the 13th, and that last year, the charity that we benefited was the Church at Mount Carmel. The Church at Mount Carmel, so a church in my neighborhood in North Nashville that is run by a couple who is incredibly strong in their belief in people in a way that's not terribly common these days. They put on free youth summer camps for children who don't have places to go. They put on Bible studies, obviously, being a religious organization, but they also put together various programs, for example, Gentlemen and Not Gangsters and Growing in Faith Together, that was working hard to change the life of teens tied to gangs and violence in the North Nashville communities and things of that nature. Bishop Marcus Campbell and his wife Stacy are the two people who we worked with last year to try and help them in the great work that they're doing. And it was brought to my attention this morning that Bishop Campbell passed away over the weekend, and we were really, really heartbroken to hear of that heart disease, the cause, and gone entirely too soon. There's a GoFundMe page set up to help support the congregation and the family of Bishop Campbell as they look to cover funeral expenses and things of that nature. It's why we take the the opportunity to try and help local charities and people who are working in the community as much as humanly possible, because there's so few of them to begin with. And it's just so crazy to me how somebody who I was talking to, a couple of months ago about how things were going and, were they in good shape for the youth summer programs and all the things that they were putting on and just kind of catching up and keeping tabs. And, a couple months later, he's just gone. So I wanted to bring that to people's attention and say that we've tweeted out the link to the GoFundMe at Buck Reising is where you can reach them, or is where you can contribute to that. That was who we were fortunate enough to partner with for the charity bowling event last year, and this year we've been working with Home Street Home to help them raise money. But just really, really sad. So I wanted to send my condolences to the church at Mount Carmel, to Miss Stacy, and to the rest of Bishop Campbell's family. Gone entirely too soon. There was a new WKRN News 2 did some reporting on this that I wanted to play a part of the package for you guys so you can understand just the kind of impact that Bishop Campbell did have on the local Nashville community.
I walked in the church and he fell in love with me. It was love at first sight.
The church at Mount Carmel is where Stacy Campbell found faith and the love of her life.
I was invited to go to Bible study there. And I walked in and I was listening. The man was like great. He could teach Bible study.
But could Bishop Marcus Campbell preach the word on Sunday?
And the man could preach. So I was like, okay. And that's just how it was. I was at the place I was supposed to be, a willing worker there too. I jumped in working.
Soon, Bishop Campbell not only became Stacy's pastor, but eventually her husband.
When you see my husband, you see me. And when you see me, you see my husband.
His love wasn't just for Stacy, but also his community.
He believed that he needed to make sure that the youth today didn't experience what he did.
Juvenile, prison, jail, and the graveyard stay open 24 hours a day.
He founded the Gentlemen and Not Gangsters and Growing in Faith Together programs, working hard to change the life of teens tied to gangs and violence.
If he could have his hands in it, he would make sure there was no lack. Somebody told me no lack, no slack. That was my husband.
But a disease called cardiomyopathy meant Bishop Campbell needed a new heart.
Everyone knew about my husband's heart, but I never thought it was get to this point.
For the last several months, Bishop Campbell had been in the hospital fighting with Stacy by his side.
It was difficult, but it was worth it. The time I had with my husband was amazing.
Bishop Campbell's fight might be finished, but his wife plans to make sure the work he's done continues in the Nashville community.
I would tell you to keep your feet moving. Don't stop. And you keep moving to see what the end is going to be.
Now, the community will be gathering at Monroe Park tomorrow at 7 to hold a candlelight vigil for Bishop Campbell. There's also a GoFundMe up that will now donate money to his funeral expenses. You can find more information on our website at WKRN.com.
The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix coming up August 4th through the 6th. That's the place that you are going to want to be for one of Nashville's premier events. It's an incredible opportunity to see Indy cars racing around the streets of downtown Nashville going 200 miles an hour. We are going to be set up at the Turn 9 Club, where you can go to MusicCityGP.com and pick up your tickets today for your single-day passes, your 3-day passes, or your premium hospitality. We're fired up about it, not just because we're fans of racing, but because the concerts are awesome. The family fun zones that they have set up all around the footprint of Nissan Stadium will have fun for kids of all ages. It's a great opportunity to bring the whole family to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Again, go get your tickets today before they sell out at MusicCityGP.com. Welcome back to the show. Lovely to have you guys back. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're back in the swing of things. It's going to be a little different cast of characters in the meantime. Lucas is in Hilton Head, I think. He's cut off all communication with me. He's only responding to Jackson's texts. He refuses to respond to any calls, texts, FaceTimes, DMs that I send him on a regular basis. He's completely ignoring me whatsoever. He's just, which is, by the way, what he should be doing on a week of vacation. Because otherwise I would just completely take over his vacation. I don't want to do that to him or Megan. It's not very fair. But meantime, we will talk about another domestic situation. A little more problematic than me interrupting Lucas and his girlfriend's vacation in Hilton Head. What the bleep is happening with the local professional football team and this offseason? Because the NPF gambling thing is, all right, it's happening across the league. It's not excusable. It's the worst reason, even as I understand, that not everything is clearly communicated to players in a way that it always makes their lives the easiest. And I thought Blaine Bishop and myself had a good discussion about this last Friday when I was on Blaine and Mickey. We'll do 20 minutes with them every Friday in their 2 o'clock hour. And Blaine and I were talking about, well, I've had a pretty hardline stance on the NPF thing. I think it's pretty inexcusable to miss games for gambling, whether that's gambling on NFL games, which NPF was not, or gambling on other things inside the facility, which NPF was, which would cause you to mix 6 games. Now, I understand that the rule is convoluted. I understand that not everything is clearly communicated all of the time, that things get lost in the shuffle, and sometimes it hurts the players most. This Hassan Haskins report, broken by Scoop Nashville, the entity in Nashville that I fear the most, Scoop Nashville. I don't have a strong... Well, let's talk about the Hassan Haskins thing, and then we can talk about Scoop, because Scoop's got its own problems, even though I fear it. And even talking about how much I fear Scoop and having criticisms of Scoop is probably... I don't want that attention. I don't want the smoke from Scoop Nashville. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just something that's out there to ruin lives.
Oh, 100%. Like, your biggest fear is seeing your best friend on Scoop, or, I mean, you had a tough night, you wake up and you have to get discharged, and you see yourself. I mean, yeah. That's a top 5 nightmare. Well,
yes, and, you know, the counter-argument would be, well, don't end up in a situation that would put you on Scoop Nashville. And you would say, yes, that's very reasonable. But Hassan Haskins, this story, we're making light of the Scoop Nashville situation. Scoop Nashville broke the story first. Hassan Haskins, Titans running back, arrested and charged with aggravated assault by strangulation stemming from an alleged incident on June the 22nd with his girlfriend. So these are the details. He was booked Thursday in Davidson County, released later in the afternoon, posting a $10,000 bond. Titans had a statement. We are aware of the situation and gathering additional information. It was not nearly as supportive as the statement they put out about MPF gambling inside the Titans facility that's going to cost them 6 games this season. So this is what the police report says. Haskins allegedly strangled his girlfriend, Micaiah Green, on June 22nd during a disagreement that stemmed from when he saw that she liked another man's Instagram photo. And I'm going to take this piece by piece. And I'm going to say on the front end that I don't have all the information at my disposal, that I don't know the nature of the Instagram post itself that she liked, nor do I have the context clues for the discussion that resulted between Hassan Haskins and his girlfriend as a product of her liking an Instagram post that he did not agree with. I would say that with limited details of the situation, something like that should not ever result in strangulation. Let's start there. It goes on. The two got into an argument, resulting in Green allegedly throwing Haskins' shoes on the floor. Okay, again, not an infraction that should result in strangulation. Haskins allegedly told her to stop, and when Green didn't, he pushed her to the ground, then tossed her on a bed where he used both hands to strangle her. The fight continued with the two allegedly slapping each other. A second alleged incident occurred Thursday when the two were at dinner. Haskins allegedly left Green at the restaurant, and she had to take an Uber back to their house. Green saw Haskins in the house when she returned. She allegedly threw a glass at him and took refuge in their bedroom. Haskins allegedly, again, all of this allegedly, according to the police report. I want to make sure that I'm saying that allegedly, because there is still, due process, and he will go through the necessary legal recourse, and, all of this will be determined, but, these are the reported alleged details. Haskins allegedly kicked the door down. An argument ensued, with Green allegedly ripping a $5,000 chain off of Haskins' neck. Haskins allegedly shattered Green's phone. There's the word allegedly used a lot in this for how many details they do have. But Green allegedly then grabbed Haskins' phone, saw Snapchat notifications with photos of naked women in chats, shattered Haskins' phone, and assaulted him. Haskins, in a statement provided to police, said Green attacked him with a broom and choked him from behind. He alleged she also threw his PlayStation 5, putting a hole in the wall, and furnished a video to support his statement. Okay. There's a lot going on here. And the question becomes, all right, how much of this, and you are welcome to call in and voice your opinion on this, 615-737-1045. Again, all of the details that are being reported around this are alleged. The Titans have put out a statement, say they are in the process of gathering more information. We are aware of the situation, gathering additional information. This was a statement made Friday night. If he did, because again, it says allegedly strangled his girlfriend. If he is proven to have strangled his girlfriend, I am of the opinion, and again, this is my personal opinion, this is not NFLPA, this is not on behalf of the Tennessee Titans, this is just it's not anything to do with the radio station other than the fact that my voice is going into a microphone that goes out on these airwaves. It is my opinion that that individual should be released immediately. Now, again, the alleged details are what's being reported here. And while what is being reported makes Hassan Haskins look a variety of different ways, words that I probably can't use on FM radio, I do understand, this was something that I had to learn the first couple of months that we had the radio show, because there was an incident involving a Tennessee Volunteers football player and an alleged incident of animal abuse. I can't remember the name of the linebacker. Jackson, you might be able to help me out. Maybe not. Just a scared-looking Jackson's eye and then a quick head shake. No.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I cannot remember the player's name either.
Right. And because the details of what he was alleged to have done were so jarring, I had a bad on-air reaction that came across much more strident than it should have for the details having only been alleged. Okay? But again, so I'm trying to be moderate with this, understanding that there is a legal process that will need to play out. But again, he was arrested and charged with aggravated assault by strangulation stemming from these June 22nd incidents. So the amount of that, coupled with the amount of detail that is alleged to have happened between him and his girlfriend over the course of, it sounds like several days, my initial indication would be a release. That hasn't happened yet. So while we await further details, I'm gonna withhold any kind of strong opinions that I might have, other than to say the alleged details are horrifying. And that if this is in fact the case, there is no place in society, much less, a professional sports organization, for somebody like this. And how they handle the situation, obviously, is going to become the subject of much scrutiny. It's a dead time in sports, so it's tough for them that it's not something that's just going to be, glossed over because they got a football game coming up at the end of the week or something like that. Like, this is something that people are going to have a lot of time to ruminate on and be able to watch how they handle the situation. The NPF gambling suspension and this, I'm not trying to draw parallels between them because I see people already in the F&M Bank chat trying to say this is a terrible look on the football team, these two things back-to-back, undisciplined and all these different things. Stuff happens, all right? Stuff happens to you, stuff happens to me, stuff happens to NPF, stuff happens to Mike Vrabel. Like, there are things in our professional lives that happen that, sometimes are a result of our own actions and may not have great consequences. Like, these things happen in real life. How harshly you want to judge an individual on them, I think they should be run through, a certain prism. One is alleged to have strangled his girlfriend. The other is going to miss 6 games because of gambling. They are not the same thing. So let's not try and create a correlation where one does not exist. But it's like Rashad Weaver, right? We haven't talked a lot about Rashad Weaver's situation that happened, and I want to make sure that I'm buttoned up on the details around this, but I'm pretty sure it was around the draft itself, around the draft weekend itself, where he was alleged to have shoved a woman in Pittsburgh, and that the legal proceedings on that had been continued to be postponed for a period of time now that, I think has allowed people to kind of allow it to fade out of their memory, right? And it doesn't become a talking point. And, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, and that's just a product of us losing our attention span, or that enough time has passed to where, they can work through the legal process at the pace that they need to work through the legal process, like whatever. These things happen. I don't want to say that these things happen on a regular basis, but these are things that football teams have to manage with great regularity. Rashad Weaver, they were comfortable enough letting the legal process play out to this point and sticking with him to this point, and him being I would say a critical part of their football team for as much football as he had to play for Bud Dupree last year. How they handle the Hassan Haskins allegations at this point, it's going to tell us a lot about how Rand Carthon in particular, a player that he did not draft, how he kind of manages this situation and how quickly they are to manage the situation based on the details, the very, very shocking details that are out there right now. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Jeremy in Nashville is next. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, good afternoon, Buck. Hope you had a happy 4th of July. With this whole situation with Haskins, after if all the, as you say, the alleged details come to be completely 100% true, like with the Ray Rice situation, has he signed his career death sentence? Do you think the league will blackball him and he will be, forever the guy that strangled the girl and tries to get back in the league and it just doesn't work out for him? Because, how the Devils, you're trying to protect the shield, as they say. So is that something that you see could be the potential outcome if all these alleged accusations are true? I'm going to have what you got to say.
Thanks for the call, Jeremy, and I hope you had a good 4th of July weekend as well. These things are so hard to predict how the NFL is going to handle them, right? Do you remember the details on the Greg Hardy situation? Now, I want to make sure that I have them 100% correct, because his issue was as horrifying a situation as anything that I've read. Now, Ray Rice, there was video, and the video evoked such a strong public response of him dragging the seemingly lifeless body of a woman out of an elevator that it forced the league, because the league initially came down, if I remember the Ray Rice situation correctly, the league initially came down with like a 2-game suspension for him knocking that woman out. And then all of a sudden the video comes out and he's got an indefinite suspension and Ray Rice never plays football again. And the video jarring that many people more than the initial report of him knocking a woman out in an elevator, of course made, and this was, I think I was still in college at the time, but like a question I remember being asked was, well, what did people think domestic violence looked like, right? That the video would evoke that much stronger of a response. So I would say the visceral images of Ray Rice and, I mean, the Greg Hardy, the pictures that his girlfriend at the time posted, and I'll read the details of the Greg Hardy situation here. Nicole Holder was the name of the woman who released the videos, bruises all over her body, including several of Hardy with marks on his face. He had reportedly thrown her against a bathroom wall, thrown her on a bed covered with assault rifles, choked her, and threatened her life during an altercation at his apartment. And there was no video evidence of the alleged incident, but the after effects that you could visibly see on her. But that dude played football again. You know what I'm saying? Like, Greg Hardy got a job from the Cowboys after that. So I can't tell you definitively that this alleged situation that Hassan Haskins is being reported to have around him is going to be a career death sentence, because it does seem that the NFL is fickle this way. But yeah, video of this being out there, right, wrong, or indifferent, probably would impact the level. And by the way, he's going through the legal process right now. Unclear as to how the league itself is going to punish him, because, he can go through the legal process one way or the other. And the league, as an employer, in the same way that the league can make a decision like suspending NPF for 6 games because that's their gambling policy, and you don't do that, under the personal conduct policy of the NFL, there can be additional punitive measures that are taken. So, however he manages, if he manages, whatever the situation for Hassan Haskins ends up playing out to be, there's the legal side of things, and then there's the employer side of things with the NFL as his employer. And those are obviously two different conversations. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. We don't have Lucas, so that means we can't necessarily do SEC observations, but we can do some July 4th observations. Coming up next. Erectile dysfunction is something that a lot of guys go through as they age. Your bodies change, and you want to make sure that you have a support system in place to help you deal with those kind of changes. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you through that process. They have 2 locations, their original one downtown and their new office in Cool Springs. They have an experienced staff who will help you work through the process, as they have thousands of other guys who have dealt with ED, to make sure that they can find the treatment path that makes the most sense for you as an individual. The Tennessee Men's Clinic understands that there's a lot of negativity, a lot of stigma around getting that kind of help, because most dudes wait a year or longer to seek help for ED. Don't do that. Call them today or go to any of their locations to make sure that you are in a position to succeed. The website, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Welcome back to the show. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Lucas, what do they say when Dawn's on vacation? She's on assignment. Lucas and Bert, nowhere to be found. I'm just going to say that they didn't show up to work, and they always try to get me fired. Why would I not try to do the same to them when they're not around here?
We do have proof Bert was here.
We do have what?
Proof that Bert was here.
We do have proof that. Oh, what kind of proof do we have that Robert was here?
The morning show that he
allegedly, like Hassan Haskins, allegedly, Bert was here.
Let's not compare those two things.
We should have done a poll. How long would it take me to scare Jackson and the kind of things that I'm talking about on the air, and that only he will be held accountable. Well, no, I would be held accountable, of course, but that he would be held responsible for keeping me in check today.
46 minutes, not bad.
Not bad. It's not terrible. Trippin' Titan says, Bert proof he was there. Bert droppings. Yeah. Again, it always comes back to fecal matter. When Robert Walsh is being discussed, you can track him like an animal. Anyway, we'll do the dumbest thing in sports this week at 11 o'clock, as is the Wednesday custom. 615-737-1045 is how you submit your nominees. But we have July 4th observations here instead of SEC observations. Now, speaking of Robert Walsh, there is a terrible song that is played. We don't have a July 4th Bert observations song. I don't know if we should still play the SEC observation song or not, Jackson. I'll leave that up to your producer discretions here.
I think we should get Bert in here and sing a cover of the song with a July 4th theme.
Okay, well, then I will leave that to you to track him down, and we will endeavor a live rendition, if he, in fact, is in the shadows somewhere lurking, a live rendition of July 4th observations. I have several, because it's a long time off, all right? Friday was an interesting show, obviously. We all headed into the July 4th weekend. Everybody's excited about it. You have Saturday. Most of us took Monday off. And then you have basically Tuesday feels like a Sunday. It is the actual holiday itself. It's a huge drinking holiday, so I don't know how many people are in good shape coming into Wednesday. But I do think that there's a lot of different opportunities for a holiday, what's the word that I'm looking for? Mischievousness to occur. So I went out on the boat, a friend's boat, on Saturday. Now, Saturday, for those of you who were in the Middle Tennessee area, you know that there was very, very strong storms out there on Saturday in the afternoon into the evening. All right, so I'm not a strong swimmer. This is documented at this point. Jackson and I haven't talked about this on air. This is the first of the July 4th observations. So I have agreed to a boat day with girlfriend's sister, girlfriend's sister's husband, and girlfriend's mom. Okay? First time hanging out with mom. We're going to do it on the boat day. We're going to have a great time, fired up about it. Vibes are high, morale is high. We are the first to the marina, okay? So we have a little time before everybody gets the boat out there, before mom and everybody else pull up. And we are going to have our boat day. And so we're out on Percy Priest, and we're hanging out at the marina, getting a couple of drinks before, and I just happen to pull up the Weather Channel app. Okay. So I look at the radar, and I see just a lot of red and orange and giant blotches of color on the radar before I am getting ready to be out on the water with a group of people. And I'm not somebody who pretends to know anything about boating. I'm not somebody who went out there in an emergency situation if you're planning on any inclement weather whatsoever. In fact, I'm probably the last person you went out there because, again, I can't swim. So I send a text to the boat group text for the day. Anybody look at the radar? I get a text back. Yeah, we've seen it. We should be good until 4. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I don't know any better. So we get out on the boat, 2 couples and mom. Everybody's having a good time. We pull up to the cove where we're going to drop the anchor, spend a little time. I don the necessary flotation device and equipment to make sure that I don't drown. in Percy Priest. I got my life vest. I got my noodle. I'm rocking. And we might have been on the water for about 20 minutes before the sky progressively, very, very quickly, turned a shade of purple and black that put a fear in me that I have never quite in my life felt before, Jackson. I didn't have my phone, so I didn't see I'm telling you, hundreds of Nashville severe weather notifications that I had to have been getting. Because since the tornado, I have those dudes on push notification. I'm not missing one. Those dudes saved my life during the tornado in North Nashville and of course, that affected many, many different parts of Middle Tennessee. So the sky is turning black. We decide that, okay, probably time to make our way back to the marina. Or we don't make it to the marina before the storm makes it to the center of Percy Priest. I have never seen waves like that on a lake in my entire life. Never in my entire life. So, again, it's girlfriend sister, husband, and girlfriend's mom that I'm spending time with for the first time. Husband of girlfriend's sister has only had this boat for about 2 weeks. So this is a very, very new experience for everybody involved. And so you have now 3 women yelling at the captain, telling him all kinds of different things about how he should be steering into the wind, how he should be steering away from the wind, how he should be steering to the middle of the lake, how he needs to be steering off to the side of the lake. And I am in a panic, just sheer terror, holding onto my life vest. Yes, it's funny now. It's funny now. Funny now, because they are all screaming, and I'm quiet, deathly silent, because I'm scared that this thing is actually going to tip me off the side, and that Robert and Lucas will have been right about me not learning to swim, and that this will be the way that I end, and that this will be a very, very unpleasant thing to talk about when I have to if I'm able to drag myself back into the radio studio on Wednesday, because we've survived the storm on Percy Priest. I'm telling you, 3 or 4 foot waves coming over the top of the boat. I was terrified.
So did you still have your flotation devices on?
Yes. Well, no, I didn't have time to put the flotation device back on because I'm holding things under my arm to keep people's, various phones and hats and shoes and all these things from going over the side of the boat. That gets to a point, Jackson, where we have to pull the boat off onto an island and take shelter as if someone in what's the Tom Hanks Wilson movie?
Castaway.
Castaway.
I was about to ask, it would have been really funny if you walked in here, shirts torn, you're still in your bathing suit, still got your floaties on.
I just got off Percy Priest an hour ago.
You have a little football and you named him Nike or something.
Wait, what was that noise in the background?
That's Bert.
What are you doing there?
See, this is why you can't ever listen to women on the high seas. Name one captain. Name one famous captain that was a woman.
And now I'm scared again.
Yeah. I hope every woman in our audience, including Sue Ann, who is known for just roasting people, calls in and buries you for that opinion. Because there are many, many capable women, both by land and by air and by sea.
Earhart.
Oh, that's a tough example. Don't put me into a box this way.
I'm sorry.
Don't put me in an indefensible position with Amelia Earhart, because that's the one that you come prepared with, and I don't have any good examples for you. But I'm sure they exist.
I'm sure they do too. I'm just being a heel here.
You're being a terrible person.
I am a terrible person. But I did want to come in here and say, since Lucas is not here for SEC observations, I didn't know what you guys were going to do, so I was prepared to sing a song on the fly for you if you needed it.
Do it.
Ooh, yeah. Let's talk about July 4th, baby. Let's talk about July 4th. Let's talk about fireworks and George Washington and all the stuff.
George Washington.
Let's talk about... Dude, you can't do that in the middle of it. Let's talk about July 4th. Let's talk about the 4th of July. Let's talk about hot dogs and Joey Chestnut on the 4th of July. Let's talk about July 4th.
How out of breath are you?
I can do this all day. Singing is not what bothers me. It's running and jumping and doing all the other stuff that
He's got a heightened lung capacity for as many times as I've sent him to the shadows screaming.
I would like one jump scare while
No,
Lucas
you
is
can't,
gone.
you can't call for them.
Isn't it?
Not
Oh,
right
he's-
now.
he's not here all week,
we're
right?
here all week.
Yeah, I can do
You're
that.
not going to know when it's coming.
I can do that for you.
No, this is not. You are not a jukebox. You don't do jump scares on command. That's not how this works.
Play the hits, Bert.
Yeah, that is what works. And by the way, it's nice to know that Jackson is on the right side of history, siding with his fellow producers and not caving to the pressure that is Buck Reising, because you are in the Hall of Fame of peer pressurers.
Me?
You. Yes, you. So I'm glad to see that Jackson has held up his end of the bargain and siding with the winning side of history.
Can you imagine though, me, Bert, stranded on an island? Because I haven't told the story, but we haven't talked about how we got off the island yet. Can you imagine me being in the middle of a storm on a lake here locally and then having to pull over and get off on an island?
I cannot, because I can only imagine that you would be asking where the artesian water is and what time.
Artisan is the word that you're looking for.
There is artesian water.
Not in the way that you're trying to apply it.
Well, you know what, smarty pants? Let's see who picks you up off an island then.
It wasn't you.
It would not be me.
Have you ever heard of Misery or Love's Company? I feel like this could have been a good bonding experience for you and your girlfriend's mother.
Yeah.
It's your first experience together. It's going to be a great story.
Yeah.
Probably the look of fear in your eyes is going to be talk at family gatherings, whether you were there or not.
Mom
4
was
years to
enjoying
come.
the hell out of it. Mom pulled up her phone on you. Mom got her phone off the boat, was playing the Gilligan's Island theme song while we're all stranded on the island. And I'm looking around cold in the rain, scared, not naked and afraid, but scared and afraid. Scared and afraid, the same thing.
I feel like I picture this. I picture you. I picture lots of vegetation around you. I picture you in some ducky floaties.
Yeah.
And just sitting there contemplating what got you to this moment.
Accurate. And except instead of vegetation, it was mostly empty Busch Light cans and used condoms.
Disgusting.
Go to break.
Can't get rid of me that easy. 11 o'clock. What's going on from the 104.5 The Zone studios?
What are you doing here?
I'm doing a sports update. Come on, man. This is my time. Get out of here. We'll start off with some good news over the holiday now that Buck's gone. The New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced that he is in full remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma. The veteran tight end made the announcement some 3 months after he was diagnosed following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while he was visiting the team in free agency. Now to food, death, taxes. Joey Chestnut, the most decorated champion in competitive eating, did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on his way to victory, falling 14 shy of his record 76 dogs that he set in 2020. And in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics have explored a sign and trade.
Explored?
Leave me alone, man. The Atlanta Hawks. Look what you've done to me. Look what you've done to me. The Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, Dallas Maverick, New York Knicks, and Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams.
Faster.
And in the majors, the Atlanta Braves fell into the Cleveland Guardians 6-5 in the first extra inning thanks to David Fry walk-off. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSDN.com. Breaking news at once for your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone!
I mean, the level of entitlement of Robert Walsh to get mad at me for interrupting him in the middle of a sports update when his sports update has dragged 5 minutes into the start of the second hour. Hello. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. I'm Buck Reising. I'm strident. I'm obnoxious. I'm happy to have you here.
That was all of our faults, though. Like, we went over, and that's why we came in 5 minutes into the second hour. We used those 5 minutes in the first hour.
That's Jackson. He's not Bert. He's efficient with his time. He's efficient with his microphone usage. Bert, how many different words did you get wrong? How did you just try to say the name of the city of Boston? I heard Boston. What happened there?
Listen, I did that update. I did that update 4 times this morning. 4 times. And not once did I stumble, bumble, or fumble any of my words. But the one time I hop on here to do a sports update during your show, I can't get through it. So I don't know what you want from me, but here's what I want from you. I need you to be a little bit nicer to me. I'm having a rough day. All right?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my July 4th plans ran a little over. You know, they went a little later than could be expected. So I'm here. I'm happy. You be happy.
I am happy. I'm happy because you were bad at your job, and that makes me happy.
Well, I do that every day. You must be thrilled.
Yeah, I am. That's why I have a big old smile on my face every time I see you faceplant on the word Boston.
All right, send me the shadows. I got stuff to do.
Shadows.
I'm leaving.
He'll be back for the next update. Stick around. Meanwhile, speaking of dumb things in sports, we have the dumbest thing in sports this week. Go ahead and hit it, please. Yes, it is. 615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Why don't you tell us? Perhaps it's Bert's opinion on female pilots, both of the boating and aero variety.
Tough scene.
Yeah, we didn't need Bert bringing the sexism to the radio show this morning, and yet he did it anyway. You are more than welcome to nominate Bert. Maybe it's for how poorly he does his updates. Maybe that's mine. I haven't decided yet. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? So, the dumbest thing in sports this week, to me, I'm going to go ahead and self-nominate. Now, we do a lot of self-involvement around here anyway. I know that I can be a lot of the time, but this is a problem. This is a legitimate problem that's arisen. Every time I try to attend an event, a game, outside of work for a local professional sporting team, they lose. And it's not just that they lose like badly. I told you to start the show. I decided to celebrate July 4th. Very easy, very fun way. Could not recommend more the experience that the Nashville Sounds. Again, they're not paying me for this. In fact, I paid them to be there yesterday to watch their baseball team lose 19-2. But afterwards, I paid, mostly to hang out by the bandbox, the bar in the outfield, and watch their fireworks display, which was lovely.
You told me your last Nashville professional sports win you saw was Packers-Titans.
I was in Green Bay as a part of my job. That's the last time I've seen a local professional sports team win a game is November 17th. Every time I go to a Preds game, they lose. Every time I've been to a Nashville SC game, they don't lose a lot this year. The few games that I've been to, they lose. Titans, notably, 7 straight losses to end the regular season, but that's a part of my work, so I don't count it. I tried to go to the Sounds game. First Sounds game I've been to all year. Well, second Sounds game I've been to all year. But they've lost both of them. I have not seen a local professional sports team win since November 17th. That I assume it's a curse now. Like, I assume it's a curse. This sports curse that I am bringing to local sports teams, it's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Yeah, and it's been spectacular fashion.
It's been bad.
If you look at what happened, even the day after the Titans-Packers game, this has been spectacular.
No, it's a monument. It's a masterclass in failure that I have brought to local sports. I'm sorry. I wish I could do something about it.
You're gonna have your picture up at some of these places, like do not enter, no admittance, Buck Reising.
Yeah. The clout monster in me would enjoy that, but for the purposes of just wanting to go to a game, yes, I would like to see them win every once in a while. It would affect my mood substantially because every time I go, they lose. What's your dumbest thing in sports?
Oh, all right. So I'm going the hot dog eating contest yesterday.
Oh, God.
Okay, there's a rain delay. Seriously. It's a hot dog eating contest. See, I understand if it's lightning but let's move the party inside. You don't need to be out. Being outside is not a requirement for eating hot dog. I've eaten a hot dog indoors. I'm sure you've eaten a hot dog indoors. Just let's move the party inside. And Joey Chestnut, the GOAT of all sports.
Of all sports.
Move over Michael Jordan, move over LeBron James, move over Tom Brady. It's Joey Chestnut, 16th title. Is there anybody better at their sport than Joey Chestnut is at eating hot dogs?
It's just such a symbol for our country that our greatest of champions is the profession. It's not the NBA player with 6 titles. It's not Tom Brady with 7 rings. It's not it's not anybody in the world of professional soccer. It's the guy that eats the most hot dogs the most amount of times over and over again. He is our greatest champion. We get the hero that we deserve. Joey
Chestnut. An institution. I don't understand
disgusting.
it. It is disgusting, but it's impressive. 76 being a record.
Oh. I can't watch it. I'm telling you, they had it on. I was at the pool yesterday during the day while they were working through the weather delay because I was sitting there dumbfounded that this would be something that they were considering canceling for weather. They just didn't have it all. It's on television. It's the only thing ESPN has on television that day, really, that people are paying attention to. The only thing that's really going to draw ratings. And you don't have a contingency plan for if it rains?
Yeah, it being exactly. We can't move this party indoors. There's so many indoor venues in New York. Just be like, all right, everybody, we're moving this down the road, and we'll have them set up eating hot dog. All you need really is some folded tables on an elevated platform.
Yeah,
with some signage because you need that money
and a gallon of water for him to drink his hot dog smoothies with because that's what he needs to get 76 of them into his stomach. It's just,
Or you could just stay out there in the rain. You don't need the water.
just lean back and open your mouth like a turkey. I don't even know if that's a real thing that turkeys do, that they look up at the sky and open their mouths and drown sometimes. That's a thing that's just real or imagined. Either way, you could do it that way.
That is natural selection. If you look up and drown yourself, that's just natural selection.
615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Buffalo in Nashville. What's up, Buffalo?
I'm in the Ville, and anybody around here knows that's Hendersonville.
Oh, well, then my call screener has lied to me. Shame on you, Jackson.
Yeah, that's my bad, Buffalo.
I guess I'm going to have to go with that jerk referee that had a finger up his butt to get Zimmerman kicked out of our next 5 games or whatever hell he's got to do with the yellow card. He gave him 2 yellow cards. You know, 1 okay, 2 what the hell? And now he can't even play against Chicago. That's terrible.
Wait, I had not seen this. Thank you for the call, Buffalo. This is what happens. So the polls don't get done, and our Nashville SC knowledge just evaporates when Lucas is not around. Jackson, you produce the Nashville SC games. What do you know anything about what happened with Walker Zimmerman?
Yes. So against in the game on Saturday, NSC won 2-0, and in Walker Zimmerman got 2 red cards, or 2 yellow cards, turning into a red card. The second one was very it wasn't a good call. It was very soft call. And now Walker Zimmerman, if you get a red card or 2 yellow cards that turns into a red, you're automatically suspended for the next game. So he'll be out for this weekend's match against Chicago.
Well, that is hugely underwhelming. I mean, so where is Chicago in the standings relative to Nashville? I know Nashville's been on a bit of a okay, I'm asking you questions that you don't have to answer for. See, I can do this to Lucas, and Lucas just, Lucas harbors deep resentments for me when I just ask him things that he needs to have some kind of, knowledge base of when I'm not necessarily prepared for it. To do that to Jackson is not fair at all. But yes, unfortunate that Walker Zimmerman would have to miss some time against Chicago at this point. You have an answer?
They are 13th in the Eastern Conference currently. Nashville is 2.
Okay, so they're useless, and so now that they should be able to handle Chicago without Walker Zimmerman.
Yeah, I mean they played them. I want to say it was in May. It was when Hani got his hat trick, another hat trick. He's had 2 hat tricks against Chicago the last 2 times they've played.
Excellent. See, always there for me. John in Murfreesboro. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week?
What's up, Buck? I kind of wish Lucas was actually here today. He could probably shed more light on this. Dumbest thing in sports this week is my fellow West Ham United fans. So today it was made official. Declan Rice was sold from West Ham to Arsenal for a record fee of £105 million. No British player no one in the EPL has ever gone for that much. And he's a world-class player. He's one of the best in the world. Well, West Ham fans are absolutely apoplectic about it. They are losing their ever-loving minds, bashing Declan Rice, who's done nothing but play his heart out for the club, match in, match out, saying he never cared, blah, 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 blah. The dumbest thing in sports this week is acting as if these athletes that they are only supposed to play for one club or one team throughout the entirety of their career. They have careers and aspirations for their lifetime that they want to look on, and as long as they give 100% on the field while they're with us, we should wish them the best and move on.
Thanks for the call, John. Yeah, Lucas would be able to give you better context than I would, but I've just looked up the details of this on The Athletic. So he had been given permission to undergo a medical and finalize personal terms with Arsenal, Declan Rice, the player that John was talking about. And yeah, the resentments that are harbored for players who move on from various teams, I get it. It's going to be a natural fan reaction, but it's not justified in the way that you think it is, because it means a hell of a lot more to you than it does to them. And that's, you've heard me preach that tired message over and over again. We'll get a few more calls for the dumbest thing in sports this week. Coming up next, we will also speak to Alan Judd of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He's done some really, really good investigative reporting on what's been happening at the University of Georgia with all the issues this offseason. We'll get his expertise on that coming up next. What, are we having a Bruce Springsteen day? I could do that. That's the only commonality I have with every other aging, largely Caucasian sports writer in this country is everybody seems to have a great affinity in our profession for Bruce Springsteen, even though he's just grunting and growling into the microphone for most of the songs. Although this is peak Bruce. It makes me happy. What's the peak dumbest thing in sports this week? 615-737-1045 before Alan Judd joins us. Let's get to Alexander the Great up next. What's happening?
Buck, thanks for having me. Love the show, and I listen every day. But my dumbest thing in sports is this player evaluation for what they deem that players are worth in the NBA. Any team willing to pay James Harden is probably the dumbest thing in sports I've ever heard. He's not worth anything close to $40 million. I wouldn't pay this guy to cut my grass. Or let alone expect to play defense on a championship-building team in a pivotal game moment. That is my dumbest thing in sports. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. It's player evaluation just generally is such an inexact science that I know it can drive people crazy. And it's actually, it's in a different way. It leads us to a conversation that we're getting ready to talk to Alan Judd about. He wrote a piece for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that I think is really interesting in terms of how the Georgia football program in particular has managed a lot of their off-the-field issues around players. This is something that comes into scrutiny quite often, comes into our world quite often because, yes, when you are evaluating players, both at the professional level or in this case that we're getting ready to talk to Alan about at the college level, there's all kinds of off-the-field things that aren't, there's no exact science to quantify them, to be able to evaluate them. There's no way once they're in your program, unless you really, really know these people, how to be predictive with their personalities. And then college programs like Georgia, certainly LSU getting in some trouble for covering up a lot of player behavior in the last couple of years, have been brought under great scrutiny because of it. Alan Judd joins us now. You can check out the work that he did for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution at ajc.com. Alan, good morning. Thank you for hopping on.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
So your approach to the article that you wrote about the Georgia football program in particular, I guess the question that I'd start with is what brought the issues going on with Georgia to your attention and what in particular piqued your interest about this? Because based on your body of work, it seems like you often have a variety of different subject matter to choose from.
Yeah. So after the accident that occurred in January and the two people lost their lives, we spent a good bit of time looking at sort of the off the field issues around the football team. We kind of early on got some tips that there were some things that maybe were worth taking a look at that were possibly a little bit irregular, and we looked a lot at player behavior off the field with traffic violations, speeding tickets, reckless driving, street racing, drunken driving, and then we started looking at other kinds of interactions with the criminal justice system and with law enforcement. And that's where we began seeing some of these sexual assault and domestic violence cases that we wrote about more recently.
And so in doing so and in discovering more of these issues or the issues that have already been either reported on or that the players have been charged on in certain circumstances, was there a commonality in the way that the Georgia football program chose to deal with these situations as they arose?
It seemed that there was an effort in all of them, or most of them at least, I'll say most, to kind of rally around the player who was accused. It's very unusual for a player to be suspended for really anything that we've seen. The Coach Smart says there is punishment, and the players know what the punishment is, but he's not going to talk about it to other outsiders. So we don't really know precisely what he does, but we know that he's not kicking very many players off the team, even when they get into trouble. He's not holding them out of games. So it's hard to see that there's much meaningful punishment for some of these activities. In the case of one player, Adam Anderson, who was charged with rape, he was suspended basically as soon as the school was aware of the charges or of the investigation. But even then, a team official shows up for him as a character witness. The coach approves allowing some players, several really high-profile players, to miss practice or to be late for practice, to go to court to be character witnesses for him at a bond hearing. So yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes and not so behind the scenes support for these players, even when they get in some really serious trouble.
Alan Judd of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Now, in these cases, Alan, I know as you're reporting this out, obviously you're doing this from the most objective standpoint humanly possible. So I don't want to ask you a question that might bring in opinion that you're not comfortable voicing. So just, if it gets too close to that, just let me know, obviously. But from your standpoint in accounting for the human element of this, we hear football coaches talk about, at least in our line of work, all the time, good people make mistakes, right? Good people can sometimes make multiple mistakes, especially when you're dealing with kids to a certain extent. How much of the human element in this is actually they're looking to protect the player because they are doing it in the best interest of the child, for lack of a better term, that they've been entrusted with the well-being, as opposed to doing it for the best interest of the football program, for the coaches to keep the machine moving?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that's the real question, and I think without hearing from Coach Smart, which we haven't really, that's the question that everybody has. From the outside, and to a lot of the people who have been victimized, or at least are accusing players of either sexual misconduct or other things, they really see it as that the only objective is to win, and that everything else, including the character of the young men who are on this team, that comes secondary to performance on the field. Everything else is just not as important. Now, I think if Coach Smart were to talk about this, he might have a different answer to that. But in the absence of hearing from him, that feeling that especially these alleged victims have is pretty overwhelming.
AJC.com is where you go to read the work that Alan and his colleagues are doing. Now, this is done specifically on the University of Georgia, and I don't know, Alan, whether, in reporting this out, you used other programs for context. Obviously, LSU, on a variety of different athletic fronts, has just gone through a probationary period. The University of Tennessee is facing NCAA infractions for different recruiting violations and things of that nature. How common is the experience that you found at Georgia applicable to other high-level college athletic programs, maybe not necessarily even specific to football?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make an apples-to-apples comparison because each situation has its own unique characteristics. But there does seem to be a lot going on throughout college athletics right now with some issues of behavior by players off the field. A lot of people are speculating that now in the era of NIL, and these players many of them are bringing in a great deal of money while they're still in college, that makes a difference, that has emboldened players. The transfer portal may have done the same thing, because if a coach disciplines a player, he can say, I'm sorry, I'm leaving, I'm going to LSU or Alabama or wherever. So I think it's a very transitional time for college sports right now that probably everybody hasn't quite got their head around, in terms of how you deal with the traditional issues that have been there about discipline, without while also acknowledging that the players have an autonomy they never really had before.
Alan, in reporting stuff out like this, like the things that makes SEC football and college football in particular so much fun, the tribalism of it can also make it incredibly toxic, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you. How much pushback have you received either from, fan base, from the university itself in reporting this out? Because anytime it feels like investigative journalists try to do something to expose things that are going on around one of these high-level programs, the reaction can often be unpleasant.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, the most rabid fans have been pretty vocal. Some of them pretty nasty, some of them a little beyond that even. But that's, largely to be expected. I mean, personally, I live here. One of my kids went to school at UGA. I'm happy when they win football games. So it's not that I'm out to get the program, as some people seem to think. There's some people who just don't understand that any critique of their program doesn't mean that it's an attempt to be in a conspiracy with Alabama or Florida to bring them down. It's been a little out of control maybe at times, but again, that's not terribly unexpected.
When people go to AJC.com to read your piece, what do you expect them to be most surprised to read in your reporting?
I think the experience that this one recruit had last year, he'll be a freshman on the team this fall, Jamal Jarrett, who came in for his official visit weekend in June of 2022, and within hours really had ended up being accused of sexual assault by a woman he had met online previously, who he met in person then at the hotel. He went out with players and apparently was drinking in bars, even though he was 16 years old, and stayed out hours past curfew, didn't get back to the hotel until after 3 o'clock in the morning because apparently there were no bed checks. So I think that the fact that all of that happened with him and they still signed him is kind of shocking to most people.
It's Alan Judd of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, kind enough to give us some time here today. You can check out his work at AJC.com. Alan, thank you so much for the time, and thank you for the reporting. It was really, really a worthwhile read.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
It's Alan Judd with us on 104.5 The Zone. Been a real complicated offseason for Georgia. As the defending national champions, and listen, anytime you do enough winning, anytime there's enough scrutiny on you, people are going, it can expose how solid a foundation you are on. It's one of the best things that you can say about Nick Saban or Bill Belichick or anybody who wins at the highest levels at a sustained rate is that, yes, winning does cover up a lot. Winning, in the case of Aaron Hernandez, can even cover up a murder in your huddle. But there is a degree of skill and effort made to keep these things on track in ways that I'm always surprised by how little Alabama has with issues like this that are being described at Georgia. Because I don't want to I don't want to normalize the things that Allen and his colleagues at the AJC are reporting on at Georgia that are, street races that are resulting in loss of life. And as he mentioned, the at the time, a 16-year-old recruit breaking curfew, drinking with potential teammates in a bar at 16, ending up in a police station under investigation for sexual assault and getting signed anyway. Like, not trying to normalize stuff like that. But I would say that I have an expectation that those things happen more than, on average, than they do, for example, at Alabama. Because Nick Saban, for the most part, keeps those things under control. Every once in a while, they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Like, they have issues, same as anybody, but I do think the management of that across the better part of two decades is one of the most impressive things about the way Nick Saban sustains. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. We'll get some more calls on the dumbest thing in sports coming up next, and we're going to start talking about some of the most exciting players in college football in the 2023 season, one a day. We've got some really good information on a couple of them, courtesy of Greg Cosell, and we're looking forward to sharing that with you coming up next. So we're going to start talking about some of the most exciting football players coming up in college in the 2023 season. We'll start doing that, I think, every day. We got enough exciting college football players to stretch this thing out. Every day at 11:45, we'll do a little bit on each of the players that I'm most interested in, that the NFL is most interested in as we get ready for another college football season. We'll do that here in just a second. Got some phone calls. People still want to nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week. That's fine. You can do that. 615-737-1045 is how you do it. Let's go to Chad in Nashville next. Hey, Chad.
Hey, good stuff today. I'm just headed out to East Tennessee. Nice drive. Can't count the barns I passed. Sea Rock City. I got to break into pickleball for the most ridiculous thing in sports. City here in Nashville, not going to mention any names, Hendersonville, they spent $1.7 million on building pickleball courts. And, you know, we've got a game that's been around a few weeks called tennis. What's wrong with tennis? Why are we boycotting tennis now that we've got to break it down to pickleball? I can't get behind it. Maybe you can shine some light on it, but great stuff as always, Buck.
Thank you for the call. All right, so apparently, now I was unaware of the spending on the pickleball courts in the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee. I was unaware. I'm sure that's a substantial chunk of change that could go to something beyond pickleball courts. Now, I'm not familiar with the economics of the city of Hendersonville, Tennessee, so I will not pretend to be. I will say that pickleball is something that a lot of people, like my gym does like a pickleball tournament every year. It's something people have been like training obsessively about, like hunting for pickleball courts across the city of Nashville. So I don't know if this is like a recent trend that pickleball is becoming more popular. I myself have not participated. I tried to learn tennis. My buddy, a friend of mine, is a tennis coach at Lipscomb. So I was shameless and called in a favor and got to go practice tennis at the Lipscomb tennis courts, and I was awful. But I had fun. I liked it. I like tennis fine. If pickleball's like it, I'd probably like pickleball. But I don't know that there's anybody conspiring against tennis. For the caller's allegations, I don't know that anybody's conspiring against the sport of tennis. I would say that pickleball, I see it more and more on like social media and stuff like that.
Tennis has a lot of cousins. Like, you know, like a lot of ball, like you hit the racket over the net. I feel like tennis has a lot of variations. Or not variations, but tennis is like the professional, but then you have like badminton where you're hitting, I mean, it's essentially tennis just with a loop-de-looping ball.
Those things are infuriating. I can't hit them hard enough.
But like, I feel like pickleball is just the next like thing. I remember, I mean, it's been a thing for a minute, like at least since I was in high school. I remember hearing about it.
Harold Hockett in the F&M Bank chat says pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country. Again, this is what Harold's saying. I don't have metrics to back this up. I may be reckless by Harold.
I've heard this. One of the hosts on the station has also said that.
That doesn't mean that it's true. It was probably me. In fact, if it was me, it was extra questionable. No,
it might have been Joe Hunk when he was filling in for you.
Oh, God. Okay, well, I don't know that. But Harold says, pickleball, fastest growing sport in the country, and closer to ping pong than tennis. All right, so now we're talking about variants and cousins of ping pong versus tennis. I would consider ping pong a cousin of tennis, as Jackson has just alleged.
Where would you throw badminton in?
I would say it's closer to tennis.
It's a distant cousin, yeah.
I would say.
You see him at family reunions, you know.
You have the same uncomfortable conversation, not uncomfortable, but the same, autopilot conversations. Hey, how are you? Are you dating anybody? How's your family? How's work? All these different things. And then you don't see them again for another year and you have the exact same conversation and neither of you really care about how things are going in your dating lives. It's just something you say. So yes, that is badminton to tennis. Agreed. Dylan in Hermitage has the dumbest thing in sports this week. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Great.
All right, so first of all, on the hot dog challenge, I think it was lightning, not rain, that caused everything, which is similar in every sport. But the dumbest thing in sports, in my opinion, is the handling of everything with the Rocket Mortgage golf this week, where Ricky Fowler is finally back in the mix with Colin Morikawa, two big names. And I know who won the tournament 3 hours before the end of the coverage on TV.
Yeah, that sucks.
Absolutely stupid. It's like watching the Olympics in Japan.
Yeah, doing stuff. Thank you for the call, Dylan. I appreciate it. That's a pretty good nominee. Dylan might have had the best one today. The idea of like doing things on like any kind of delay in 2023 when it's so hard to get people's attention anyway for live events. It's right. In fact, it's why sports rights are worth what they are, because they're live. They're DVR proof for the most part. People don't want. I mean, some people will. Some real sickos, and me, because it's part of my job. Go back and watch this stuff on DVR. Like, my DVR is full of like last year's Tennessee Volunteers games. Because if I want to enjoy my Saturday and like not completely program it around the University of Tennessee, well, then I'm going to go back and watch the Vols games after effect, because I know we're going to talk about it all week. Most people don't watch sports that way. Most people watch them live. And the idea that golf or anything, the Olympics, anything like that is being done on some sort of delay when you can find out on social media or get an update from ESPN or Fox Sports or wherever you're consuming your sports breaking news updates from, like, it's a broken model in 2023.
Elon tried to help you out.
Oh, bleep Elon. Now, here I'm talking about doing this thing every day with the most exciting college football players in 2023, and you got me on an Elon bent. All right, we'll do that here in a second then. This Elon Musk thing, and that's going to be applicable to a variety of different things. Anytime I say this Elon Musk thing, him limiting the number of tweets that I can view per day just because I won't pay him $8 a month for my blue check mark, bleep yourself, all right? For weekends like this, a perfect example. Yes, I use Twitter for work. Yes, I'm being a bit pretentious by saying I can afford the $8 a month for the blue check mark. I understand that there's a degree of sanctimoniousness from formerly verified people that had their blue check marks taken away from them because I won't pay Elon for Twitter. Like, I get that. Nobody cares about the plight of the people that had the check marks on Twitter. It's fine. But if your idea to then get me and other people to pay for your Twitter is to limit the number of tweets that you can see per day in the middle of NBA free agency, to completely undermine the business model of Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania of The Athletic, who are just there to traffic in people seeing all of their tweets on the day of NBA free agency. And also, at the same time, for there to be pretty significant storms in the Middle Tennessee area. And for me to be constantly scrolling Nashville severe weather for updates to see whether or not I can get the hell off this island on the lake that I'm stranded with 3 other people and my my girlfriend's mother. And I want to know how much longer I have to wait before I can get back on the boat and get the hell out of here. Like, yeah, I don't want to pay you $8 a month for that, Elon. Bleep yourself.
It was also NHL free agency. The Preds were making moves. Ryan O'Reilly coming to the Nashville Predators this weekend. That was the day that was the opening of NHL free agency, NBA free agency, yeah. Severe storms in the area. Just could not pick a worse day, Elon.
Yes. Speaking of trolls, Big Joe on the Go is in the chat on YouTube. He says, is that a charcuterie board behind you? Nice. It kind of does look like one, doesn't it? For those of you watching on the FNM Bank chat. By the way, Big Joe going to be at the bowling event on July the 13th. A lot of you guys bought tickets over the weekend. We're hype about it. Home Street Home is hype about it. Big Joe Dubin is going to come out and hang out. Ben Jones, former Titan center, going to stop by for a little while. Darren Bates has put together a whole team for the Raw Room podcast. We would bring Bates on the radio show to promote the fact that he's going to be here, but I can't trust him at all on FM radio to not say something expletive-laden into the microphone. I think his last appearance, he made it 10 seconds before he said multiple F words, and we had to bail the hell out. So Bates is going to be there. That's safer to do at the bowling event than it is on FM radio. Like I said, Ben, Coach Mack said he's going to hang out and not bowl, but do Coach Mack things. And if you've been to any of these events, you know what that means, and you know that it's a delight. So all of those people hanging out with us at the bowling event, including Big Joe on the Go. So we're excited to have him. Perhaps he will bring his Emmy Award-winning sportscasting abilities to Kings Bowl on July the 13th. Tickets available at 1045thezone.com. Proceeds to Home Street Home. Great charity here in Middle Tennessee. D. Good says, Buck is a coward for not having Darren Bates on the radio. No, I'm not a coward.
He's a good friend.
I'm a good friend. One, I'm protecting my friend Darren Bates. 2, I'm protecting my employer because their license would immediately be revoked because we would get 20 seconds into the Darren Bates conversation and there would be literally every word on the list of words that you cannot say said on the air in that span. Because that's who DB is.
Don't forget the look of terror on my face.
Yeah, but that's fun.
Go to break.
Okay. What? No, that's my job. 615-737-1045. We're going to talk about the ripple effects of the Hassan Haskins story before the holiday weekend. Hassan Haskins arrested and charged in a very, very serious domestic incident that we will discuss coming up next.
12 o'clock, good buddy. What's going on? From the 104.5 The Zone Studios, I'm Robert Walsh. We'll start off with some good news from over the holiday. New Orleans Saints tight end Foster Moreau announced that he is in full remission from Hodgkin's lymphoma. The veteran tight end had made the announcement some 3 months ago after he was diagnosed following a physical with the New Orleans Saints while he was visiting the team in free agency. Death, taxes, and Joey Chestnut. The most decorated champion in competitive eating did it again as he captured his 16th Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Championship. Joey consumed 62 hot dogs and buns on his way to victory, falling 14 shy of his record 76 dogs that he set in 2021. And in the NBA, the Boston Celtics are up in the air on Grant Williams. The former Vol received a qualifying offer, but the Celtics have explored a sign-and-trade. The Atlanta Hawks, the Charlotte Hornets, the Dallas Mavericks, New York Knicks, and the Washington Wizards are all in the mix for Williams. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. Now back to the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour already. Where has the time gone? See, we don't need Lucas or Bert to have a good time around here. It's not such a fragile ecosystem. Jackson doing a great job back there. We're here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. So I have been teasing a couple of things. Jackson said to us during the last commercial break, well, I won't speak for you. How did you describe the way that this show works on a regular basis?
It's very the tone shifts, very light. Last segment, light and breezy. We're going to get a little bit more serious this segment.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around because I have the attention span of a small rodent to, making fun of Bert and Joey Chestnut for things like hot dog eating competitions being canceled for lightning delays to now telling you about a running back for the Titans who allegedly strangled his girlfriend. Allegedly. Lots of alleged things. So, this was a story that broke late Friday night, courtesy of Scoop Nashville. And because we've talked about this earlier, we're going to get into the ripple effects of the Hassan Haskins situation here. They haven't made any transactions around Hassan Haskins just yet. Nor do I know, by the way, that they will definitively. I think they want to, as their statement said, gather more information before they make a decision. I will say that Scoop Nashville reporting this, first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, Scoop Nashville is the thing that I fear the most in this city. It's not a higher power striking me with lightning, although we got close to that on the lake this week, I'll be honest with you. It's not a higher power striking me down for, some kind of karma that I probably deserve. It's not, it's not my inability to swim or a fear of heights or anything like that. What I fear most in this world is Scoop Nashville. Now, Scoop Nashville, for those of you who are unfamiliar, they exist to dig up things like DUIs and mugshots, like Titans players or Preds players or professional athletes locally, country singers who get in trouble for, various infractions ranging, in the case of Hassan Haskins, alleged domestic violence, to what was the name of that dude that went viral on Broadway for playing the guitar? He was playing a guitar. He was playing on the stage at Tootsie's. Big old boy. Playing a guitar with a beer bottle, then picking the beer bottle up and chugging it while he continued to play the guitar. I can't remember the dude's name. Anyway, got a DUI after that. Shocking to no one. Not a great moment. Goes viral 1 minute, all of a sudden he's on Scoop. Scoop Nashville exists to ruin lives. So it's my greatest fear that anybody I know, me, or in my life that would be tagged on Scoop Nashville, because they are very cruel in the way that they tag people on social media when they are broadcasting your shame to everyone. And they've done this to Hassan Haskins and many, many others. In fact, to scroll Scoop Nashville's Instagram feed, just looking at mugshots after a July 4th weekend, it will make you rethink any bad decisions that you might have made or may make in the future.
The timeline of shame.
It is the timeline of shame. That's a good name for the show. The Timeline of Shame. I fought for a couple of different names for the show. Despite what, I am super self-involved. There's no avoiding that. I did not want the show to be named the Buck Reising Show. I wanted a couple of different options. The Timeline of Shame was not one of them, but I would have taken it. I wanted Wake and Take. Nobody would go for Wake and Take. They wouldn't give me Wake and Take.
I'm out on that one.
No? Didn't like Wake and Take. I thought it was genius.
I don't get it.
What?
Wake and Take. Like what it like
Well,
like hot takes?
Yes. In
Okay,
in certain areas of the country where it is legal to do so, you can wake and bake. In this state where it is not legal to wake and bake, you can wake and take.
I like it a little more now.
Okay, well, then I had to explain the joke to you, kind of, makes me realize why.
Spell it to me like I'm 4.
Well, no, but that's what I had to do, and it's easier to explain. Oh, what's the guy's name? Oh, Buck Reising. It's his radio show. That makes sense. I wanted creative, and then I would have what I would have had to explain in the creativity of it would have made it less creative and would have just pissed me off because I would have had to explain the show title to everybody, just like I did to you. So it's good that we didn't do that. Anyway, Scoop Nashville, scary thing. Adam says, the bottle service show. No, not bottle service. D. Good says, we want more Burt with Jackson. See, it's just anybody but me around here. It's such a winning position, it seems to be in that, even though that studio seems to me like a hellscape. I imagine there's all kind of smells that I don't want to deal with back in that studio, just for the amount of time that Burt in particular spends back there. My general concern. That studio always seems like a winning position during this show because everybody's going to take your side over mine. It's got to feel good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
I like the power.
Yeah, that's a recurring problem with the production people around here. They just keep grabbing for power, more and more mic time. Anyway, the Burt, Jackson, and Panzika show coming to 10 to 1 near you soon. This is Hassan Haskins' story, reported first by Scoop Nashville, which is why I got off on a tangent. The details are jarring. Again, they are all alleged details, but there is enough detail that the allegations are still horrifying. So, he is arrested and charged with aggravated assault by strangulation. The incident apparently, or the strangulation stemming from an alleged June 22nd incident with his girlfriend, booked last Thursday, almost a week ago, in Davidson County, posted a $10,000 bond. Titans put out a statement about the situation. We are aware of the situation and gathering additional information. That was the entirety of the statement. I'm going to read. I read a lot of the details to you in the first hour. For those of you who don't listen to all 3 hours of the radio show, one, I get it. And two, we'll just rehash that for you quickly here. According to the police report, Haskins allegedly strangled his girlfriend, Micaiah Green, on June 22nd during a disagreement that stemmed from when he saw that she liked another man's Instagram photo, okay? The two got into an argument, resulting in Green allegedly throwing Haskins' shoes on the floor. Haskins allegedly told her to stop, and when Green didn't, he pushed her to the ground, then tossed her on a bed, where he used both hands to strangle her. The fight continued with the two allegedly slapping each other. A second alleged incident occurred Thursday when the two were at dinner. Haskins allegedly left Green at the restaurant. She had to take an Uber back to their house. Green saw Haskins in the house when she returned. She threw a glass at him, again allegedly, and took refuge in their bedroom. Haskins allegedly kicked the door down, all of this allegedly. An argument ensued, and Green allegedly ripped a $5,000 chain off his neck. Haskins allegedly shattered his girlfriend's phone. She then allegedly grabbed, I'm reading the word allegedly many, many times because it's written many, many times in the police report. Green allegedly then grabbed Haskins' phone, saw Snapchat notifications with photos of naked women in them, shattered Haskins' phone, and assaulted him. So Haskins has provided a statement to police saying Green attacked him with a broom and choked him from behind. He alleged she also threw his PlayStation 5, putting a hole in the wall, and furnished a video to support his statement. So there's video apparently out there of this happening to him, but not of him strangling his girlfriend. Adam in the F&M Bank chat immediately asks, why is this guy still a Titan? Well, I would imagine because of the number of times the word allegedly is used in all this. Now, there is a ton of detail for this just to be allegations. He has been charged and is bonded out. So, you take that into consideration when you're talking about this. The ripple effects are, so basically what comes next? One, they have to get to a point where they have enough information to make a decision. I would say, even though the allegations on this are disgusting and that there should be punitive measures on the legal side of things and by the league if it is found out, any of it, frankly, is found out to be accurate. I don't fault them for taking their time to make a decision. Now, how much time they take to make a decision and what that decision ultimately ends up being, they're going to be judged by that too. But I would say to you, why is this guy still a Titan is the question that's being asked of me. I would say that even as disgusted as I am reading the allegations, they are still allegations at this point. So you have to let that play out. The Titans will let that play out. Again, there will be legal recourse and recourse from his employer. Those are two different things. I think that the next part of this is, there is a real percentage chance that Hassan Haskins is going to miss some time here. And, we can look up previous infractions under the personal conduct policy to try and project a suspension if we want to. I don't think that's an exercise that's worth doing at this point. I will say, though, that, and I hate to make it a football conversation, but this is a sports talk radio show, and we run this through the prism of sports. Your roster, in ways that it's been compromised for the last 2 years, is already being compromised before your season begins. Your roster was compromised the last 2 seasons because your players couldn't stay healthy. Now your roster is being compromised by players you need to step up and kick ass this year because of gambling and PF gone for 6 games. How much time Hassan Haskins is going to miss, TBD. Fair to assume that there is going to be some kind of time missed. You have players making the mistakes that you absolutely cannot make. Not just for the moral reasons of don't choke your girlfriend, but in ways that are actively causing detriment to the thing that most of us had questions about. To turn it into the sustainability of the football team, I don't know the details of Hassan Haskins' relationship with his girlfriend. I'm not going to talk about it like I do. Not a productive exercise. I honestly hope that both of them work through whatever it is that they need to work through and that, both parties are better as a result of whatever happened here. I'm not qualified to talk about the relationship situation. What I am qualified to talk about is the football team. And the football team is making, it's the thing that Mike Vrabel says the most often. Don't do dumb bleep to hurt the football team. Don't get caught. Don't do it, much less get caught. Gambling inside the facility at the team hotel or in ways that are going to get you popped by the NFL's gambling policy. Don't do it. Obviously, don't put hands on women. Full stop. But much less the situation where there's this incident seems to be the result of just pettiness and jealousy because somebody liked somebody else's Instagram post or somebody was getting Snapchats from a person that wasn't their significant other. Just idiocy. Absolute idiocy. And now it's going to cost everybody as a result. So, like I said, I don't like making the human interest parts of this about the sports, but I'm not qualified to talk about their personal lives because I don't know their personal lives. What I do know is this is now adding to a list of messy issues that is going to complicate an offseason for the Titans that just really couldn't stand to deal with these kind of complications. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. We'll talk about one of the most exciting college football players that you're going to see this upcoming season. And we'll also get into which player, they seem to be running out of players on offense that are going to be available to benefit from an offensive coordinator change. But there are a couple who I do think stand to benefit the most from the change in coaching staff. And we'll talk about that coming up next. The Gambling Clinic is a resource that has helped so many people. In fact, we've had callers to this radio station mention how much the Gambling Clinic has helped them. It is a program founded at the University of Memphis back in 1999 and is the oldest continually operating clinic specifically focused, easy for me to say, on gambling treatment and gambling addiction. The vast majority of people gamble for fun without any problems whatsoever, but about 5% of people do report having issues at home result because of their gambling problems, overextending themselves financially, and the ripple effects that can result from that because of gambling. The Gambling Clinic is here to help you if you are somebody who deals with those situations or you have somebody in your life who is dealing with those situations. They're going to work with you on a regular basis as an individual to find the things that trigger those unhealthy habits for you, because they're not there to discourage you from gambling. Like I said, most people do it without any issues for fun. They're there to help you identify the problems that cause you to overextend yourself, to get into arguments at home about it, or all the different issues that can result. To get more information about the great work that this program does, go to thegamblingclinic.com. That's thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Welcome back. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So we're going to talk about which Titan will benefit most from an offensive scheme change. I was listening to an interesting podcast over the weekend from the Athletics Football Show. The idea of like how the NFL is changing because of mobile quarterbacks and what they are looking to try and accomplish in the NFL just generally. You talk about going through progressions as a quarterback, right? The percentage of time that a quarterback is actually hitting their third read in a progression versus quarterbacks who are taking off. How often scrambles are being accounted for, and what percentage of the time quarterbacks are taking off and running after their first read or their second read, as opposed to trying to work through all three progressions, and how offenses and coaching staffs, defenses as well, are having to adapt to that. These are the kind of questions that I have when we get back to training camp, which, by the way, 20 days before we all report back for training camp. Football season in 20 days. I have football season scaries. We're going to make it. But these are the questions that I have. Things that I'm thinking about ahead of the season. New OC. Who's going to benefit from that? What are they thinking? Are they willing to tell us how much they're thinking about with the necessary tweaks that they have to make with this system? But we'll have time to get to that here in just a second. I think, though, that with the idea that Derrick Henry, do you see what the NFL did this morning? Jackson, I know Jackson's in the middle of doing something, so maybe I'll bother you guys with this as opposed to bothering Jackson. But the NFL, we're all in dead season. We're all looking for content. And the NFL is now just taking to tweeting out highlights of various things that they want to do. They tweeted out Derrick Henry rushing highlights, ? No. Derrick Henry jump pass highlights, ? Yes, please. And it's just a thread of Derrick completing various jump passes to Corey Davis, to, what was the name of that tight end whose name escapes me right now? Michael, not your Cole, but Michael Pruitt. Except the NFL's account spelled Derrick Henry's first name wrong. They only put one R in Derrick. They've misspelled Derrick Henry's name. Yeah, I know. So I'm watching the Derrick Henry highlights, except it's Derrick with one R instead of two. One of the biggest stars in their sport. And they can't even spell his name right. So instead of getting distracted by that, I do think it's worth talking about the different ways that this offense can benefit Derrick Henry. We've talked about so many different things around Derrick, right, at this point. And how you continue to build an offense around a running back in 2023 when the most efficient offenses are not doing that, but are still having hugely efficient rushing attacks. So it's not like the teams that are making it, further in the playoffs or having the most efficient offenses. It's not like they're abandoning the run game whatsoever. In fact, they're some of the most efficient run games in football. The Chiefs, the Bengals, the way that they're able to problem solve and the way that they're able to run out of multiple formations, the way that they're not giving themselves away by nature of having a certain personnel group on the field. It's a problem that Derrick Henry's always going to have because Derrick has, it's like Liam Neeson made an appearance on the show earlier. Like Liam Neeson, Derrick Henry has a particular set of skills. And Derrick's particular set of skills are more inclined to a certain personnel grouping than they might be to run out of a bunch of different formations the way that you can with a guy who might be considered a greater threat out of the backfield, even though Derrick Henry is coming off a career-high receiving year. What I'm most looking forward to seeing in this offense is how they work to benefit Derrick the most. Because while we're talking about, Derrick Henry in a contract year, and some of you want him extended, and some of you want Derrick Henry a Titan for life, and some of you are pissed at me every time I say that Derrick Henry's a depreciating asset, when of course they're all depreciating assets, and it's only the most obvious thing. But he's your guy. He's Derrick Henry. And you don't want anything negative associated or anything that you even perceive to be negative associated with that guy. I understand. He's among all the different things that I have questions about. Derek's usage rate is the thing that I have the most questions about anywhere on the board. Not how much better Chigakonkwo or Treylon Burks can be, not how much, more sustainable an offense might be if they can just keep guys upright behind center, whether it's Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, or Malik Willis, whoever ends up playing the bulk of the snaps at quarterback for the Titans this year. If it's if he's healthy, it's Ryan Tannehill, but that's not been an easy proposition the last couple of seasons. But how they maximize the abilities of Derrick Henry still, while Derrick Henry's on the roster, it's the biggest question mark that I have. I think they're capable of doing this in a meaningful way. I think they're capable of making him not such a dead giveaway every time he's on the field. But I also think that that's going to involve a huge shift in tendencies from the play caller, in this instance, Tim Kelly. People, I think, tend to have a skepticism when Tim Kelly was promoted internally on an offense that many of you hate, under an offensive coordinator that many of you didn't understand why he wasn't fired sooner than he was. I would caution you, though, Shane Bowen, who is a defensive coordinator that a lot of people hold in high regard at this point. Shane Bowen was not regarded well in his first season because he was having, according to the way that they had this set up, he's having to share kind of defensive coordinator responsibilities with Mike Vrabel. Shane Bowen was still the outside linebackers coach, but the defensive play caller and not the defensive coordinator in position. So it created this convoluted mess that caused, one, the defense to suffer beyond what their talent deficiencies were that year in 2020. And two, made you have a lower opinion. Many of you wanted Shane Bowen fired before 2021. As loudly as you wanted Todd Downing fired last year, you wanted Shane Bowen fired before the 2021 season. And now all of a sudden, when it's his job fully, and when he can fully dedicate his attention to being the defensive coordinator and not a position group on top of a, in-game play caller and whatever else was muddled in that job description, Shane Bowen regarded as one of the better defensive play callers in football. In fact, when I talk to coaches, and when you talk to coaches around the league, the defense that they say, or that many of them will bring up if they're just looking to learn some stuff about what different teams are doing on defense, try and figure out how they can expand their play calling portfolio, they'll just throw on the Titans, see what the Titans are doing, and try and glean some creativity from that. So Shane Bowen, making a night and day difference from 2021 than it was in 2020, there's a lot of good reasons for that. Tim Kelly, just because he worked under Todd Downing, doesn't mean that you should associate the kind of baggage that you did with Todd Downing to Tim Kelly just because he was a part of last year's offensive coaching staff. I'm not going to begrudge you, though, that kind of skepticism, but I just think it's a bit misplaced. Because to hear the players talk about it, it sounds like a substantially different situation that they're walking into. A much more from the ground up kind of installation of this offense than at least I would have anticipated, given the kind of carryover personnel and coaching-wise that we're talking about here. But, for example, and we've played this clip for you before, but Chigakonkwo, the Titans tight end, guy who figures to play a big role in this year's offense. Chig, from a couple of months ago, talking about one of the biggest differences to him in this new offense that they plan to run.
I think that we'll be able to operate a lot faster and a lot cleaner. We cleaned up a lot of, code words on our offense to changing, long verbiages in the huddle to just, single words so we can just play fast and just like one word will tell us the entire play and everybody knows where to line up. It's harder, obviously, to learn, but when we learn, it'll be easier to play.
So verbiage changing, verbiage meaning increased efficiency or at least pared down verbiage leading to increased efficiency. It's kind of one of the tropes that we had to work against this offseason because when Mike Vrabel said we're rarely the fastest team on the field, all of us, including me, took him to mean, they need faster players. They need more outright speed on the field. And when he said we're rarely the fastest team on the field, that's what many of us took him to mean. When he's talking about maximizing the efficiency, maximizing the speed at which they play as opposed to the speed of the actual players. Then there's Treylon Burks talking about the idea of a faster offense. This is the Titans wide receiver in a much improved offseason heading into his second year.
It really reminds me of my sophomore year in college, with that being Browse coming in and just having that tempo offense and just knowing like that it's so much things in this offense that we have now that you can just go be free, have fun, and just win games.
Well, so play the clip again, Jackson. I want people to listen to the last part where he's talking about where we can just have fun, play free, and win games. That's the thing that I want people to key in on here.
It really reminds me of my sophomore year in college, with that being Browse coming in and just having that tempo offense and just knowing like that it's so much things in this offense that we have now that you can just go be free, have fun, and just win games.
Be free, have fun, and win games. I would want just a little more clarity if I had the ability to ask Treylon or Chig a follow-up today. My follow-up would be, so in terms of playing freer, are they asking you or are they setting you up in a way to help you think less, like during the course of a game? Now, that may sound like, dumbing down is a term that gets tossed out a lot, and that's probably what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying that they need it like Treylon Burks isn't. I'm not alleging that Treylon Burks or Chigakonkwo or any of the players that were on last year's team that are coming into this year's offense, I'm not alleging that they weren't smart enough, for example, to be able to handle, process at the capacity that last year's offense required them to process. But I think it can also be acknowledged that, yeah, if you're having to overthink a bunch of things while you're doing it at 100 miles an hour the way that your coaching staff and your sport demands that you do, having yourself bogged down by that kind of processing, it can make you play slower. It can make you be more hesitant. Hesitancy is about the worst thing you can be on a football field in professional sports where you need to rely on instincts to be able to let your athletic abilities, let your traits, let your training take over in all the ways that set you apart from, Jackson and I or anybody else who thinks they can dribble a basketball with competency or play in slow-pitch softball games or whatever the case may be. Is that your Jay?
Fade away.
I think that is, for the amount of young talent that they have, for what they're trying to accomplish, for as often as people get figured out in the NFL. Like, think about the Titans offense in 2020, where Art's just out there dealing. Arthur Smith is out there dealing. And largely, it's the same kind of offense that Todd Downing was running in 2021. And yeah, the offense wasn't nearly as good in 21 as it was in 20. But for the most part, Todd Downing's still scheming up explosive plays when A.J. Brown's on the field. Todd Downing's still putting together a highly functioning running game without Derrick Henry. They didn't have trouble running the football. Their red zone offense didn't suffer. But over the course of time, and A.J. Brown making appearances on Darren Bates' Raw Room podcast and saying, yeah, when the Titans played the Eagles, I gave them everything that we did offensively, because turns out in 2022, they were running the exact same things, checks, kills, and everything that they were in 2021. They didn't change the language at all. We were able to figure them out. We smoked them. Kevin Byard, I was listening to his Bussin' with the Boys interview this week. He said the Eagles game is the only time in his professional career where he felt like they didn't have a chance to compete, where they just got flat out killed off the ball. Because the Eagles had everything. They didn't change anything offensively. Every counter that the Titans thought they had, or everything that the Titans were prepared to present, they had the check for already. They had the counter for already. They were prepared, and that happens in the NFL at a way faster rate than at any other time. Everybody has more access to more information, more resources, more, advanced analytics. It's all out there, and the smartest coaches will get your ass from time to time. Now, it's incumbent upon them to evolve, and that's probably the word of this offseason, evolution. I don't care if the offense wants to run the football. I say that, and then I'm going to be screaming in the press box about the amount of first down runs that they have next year. But I guess my larger point is I don't care if the offense still revolves around Derrick Henry in a way that is their primary means of operation. What I care about is their ability to evolve around Derrick Henry in a way that makes it not such a heavy lift for him, makes him the best version of himself. Because I feel like that's been the biggest failure of the offensive coaching. They're just, the best play is run Derrick Henry, run Derrick Henry, run Derrick Henry. And while I understand I'm simplifying that to a much greater degree, and I'm sure that the coaches would be pissed at me for simplifying that way, like, they don't adapt, or they hadn't in recent memory. And they had been figured out in a way that was clear and obvious to everybody. And what they showed last year is that to an extent they were able to compete, but not evolve at the rate that the NFL requires them to evolve. That's the biggest question that I have for Tim Kelly. It's the biggest question that I have for Derrick Henry. What is your evolution? What is your next stage? Because I know what Derrick Henry has been. I know that Derrick Henry has been great. And I'm not saying, just because I'm using the words has been, I'm not applying that to Derrick. I'm saying, what's next? What are you capable of that? Because that, I think, is, how we're going to define Derrick Henry into the future. It's as much a part of the conversation around him and the running back position as any could be had out there in modern day football. 615-737-1045 is how you get in on the conversation. Last call for phone calls. We'll wrap things up coming up next. Wrapping up the show for the day. Last call for phone calls. 615-737-1045 is the number. Jackson mentioned the Predators had their free agency signings over the weekend. The NBA had free agency go down over the weekend. Meanwhile, Elon's limiting Twitter visibility. So a lot of those transactions for people who typically consume them on social media get lost in the shuffle. But did see a couple that piqued my interest. Derrick Rose coming back to Memphis. Not coming back to the Grizzlies, but coming back to Memphis is interesting. I don't know what kind of construct that's going to look like with Derrick Rose, I assume, coming off the bench. And
he'll start. Jaws suspended 25.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he would have to, right? Because, Tyus Jones is no longer with the Grizzlies.
Yeah, they traded him in the Marcus Smart deal.
Yeah. So to see the way that that's going to work out with the Grizz, I'm interested. Well, I had a lot of people ask me for a lot of conversation around Ja this weekend actually coming up. Just the idea that a couple of my buddies thought it was ridiculous that he was suspended for as long as he was because there was no actual crime committed. And I had to explain it. No, it's not. His crime is that he's dumb. that in this moment, his crime is stupidity.
Excessive stupidity.
Excessive stupidity within a period of time.
2 counts.
Yes, that's right. Back to back. Within a period of months for an infraction that was even more stupid than the first one of waving a gun around in a club on your own Instagram Live. So, yes, the crime of that, worthy of 25 games, I would think. But we will see. Trippin' Titan says Threads will be the new Twitter replacement. I don't know what the new Twitter... I don't want to get into Twitter replacements and things like that. Like, the vast majority of people aren't on Twitter anyway. So I feel like anytime I talk about these things, it's just, there's probably a contingent of 55 plus in the audience that's shaking their fist and being like, I'm not on social media, I don't care. To which I would say, good for you. The rest of us are deeply addicted to our phones in a way that's unhealthy and has me bitching at Elon Musk about only letting me see 600 tweets a day. But I hate that it happened during the middle of 1, storm systems in Nashville, and 2, free agency periods. Not ideal. Tomorrow, we're going to have Corey Curtis from WKRN News 2 in studio. We'll talk a lot of the Titans offseason and what to expect. We are going to get this most exciting college football players in 2023 bit off the ground. I swear to God, we're going to. Jackson doesn't believe me.
We failed today. We'll try again tomorrow.
We did fail today because there's not enough time to do it here. What there is time for is polls.
Powered by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. Was waiting on you to talk there.
Well, you shouldn't be waiting on me to talk. Turn the music down just slightly. The club is entirely too loud in my head. If we were in a Two Rivers Ford, the speakers would be blaring. But, yes, made possible by Two Rivers Ford. No, I don't talk during this segment. You do.
Paul, what's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Kenneth says, trading the lost talent at ESPN for Pat McAfee, even for as good as Pat is. Tyler says, Henry Cejudo backing out of his fight because he hurt his shoulder doing a slow-motion demonstration for a YouTube video.
Somebody tweeted us the video. I watched it. It's hilarious. I was not familiar with the boxer. It's a tough... If people weren't familiar with your career as a fighter, for this to be the thing that they most associate your name with, of you embarrassing yourself, of you having to pull out of a fight because you injured yourself in a demo... That's a tough career scene.
Which Titans player will benefit most from the OC change? Kenneth says Tannehill, even if it's not with the Titans, he could land a huge contract with another team. John says Chig, Kelly won't wait until mid-November to get him more involved. Lindsay D says O-line, hopefully less predictability, leads to less 8-man boxes. And a lot of answers for Tannehill and 1 for DeAndre Hopkins.
I think... we talked about this. I think you should most want it to benefit Derrick Henry, just in terms of trying to get the most out of your asset that's still on your roster for one more year. Now, Tannehill is obviously, quarterback more important than running back, no matter what the circumstances are, even though I think many of you would dispute that between the two of them in particular. But maximizing the ability of Derrick Henry, I think, is of the utmost important for this offense this year. Chig is important. Burks is important. Tannehill is, of course, the thing that makes it go. But they have to, I don't want to say they have to justify Derrick Henry's presence on the roster, but they have to find a better version of it to justify the way they keep wanting to run their offense.
How would you describe the Georgia football program's offseason? Jimmy Wheeler chimes in saying, frankly, I'm surprised that Kirby hasn't addressed this. I would imagine he has to some point before the season. Definitely a black eye for the program. Scott chimes in with disgraceful.
Yeah, it's just been messy. Alan Judd was really, really good. He did some great reporting for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on all the things that have gone wrong for Georgia in this offseason and what kind of culture might have fostered an environment that allows for such things. Worthwhile to go check out that interview in the second hour of today's show.
And which essential item do you lose most frequently? 24% say wallet/purse, 41% say keys, and 35% say their phone.
It's my wallet. I lost my wallet over the weekend. I lost my wallet yesterday at the pool. Jackson not only had to let me into the building because I don't have my wallet, Jackson had to let me into the parking lot. So you're doing double duty, basically. But now you understand the plight that both Lucas and Robert have been putting up with for the better part of 2.5 years. You regulate. I'm like a man-child at this point. I basically need adult supervision at all times. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. Jackson is going to be hanging out with me for the rest of the week while Lucas and Robert do whatever the hell it is that they do when they're not here. We're going to enjoy that time together. No prime time at all this week. I'm off all week on prime time. No 615 sessions. No Install with Greg Cosell, the radio show. It's the only time I'm talking this week, which might be a blessing for you. But we will get back at it tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Can't wait to hang out with you guys then. See you.